It all started when I decided to clean out the attic of my late grandmother's house. Her passing had left me as the sole inheritor of the crumbling, Victorian-style home. The house had always creeped me out as a kid. Long hallways with flickering lights, creaking floorboards, and rooms filled with dusty, forgotten relics. But the attic, that was a place none of us dared enter. Dust motes floated in the stale air as I climbed the creaky wooden ladder. The attic was worse than I remembered. It was suffocating, filled with old boxes, moth-eaten clothes, and yellowed papers. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. Maybe a piece of her life that would help me feel connected to her. I'd already gone through her journals, photographs, and the locked drawers of her writing desk, but this space was different. It felt forbidden. I was ready to call it a day when something in the far corner caught my eye. A small, unmarked cardboard box tucked away like a secret. The box was damp, and the cardboard crumbled slightly as I picked it up. Inside, I found a single vase tape. Its surface was pristine, untouched by the grime that coated everything else. The only marking on it was a label in faded ink, Playmane written in shaky handwriting. The handwriting looked familiar. I swear I'd seen it before. My heart sank into a pit of dread. Memories of whispered stories about my grandmother's dark past surfaced in my mind. Against my better judgment, I tucked the tape under my arm and carried it downstairs. The living room felt safer, brighter. The sun's rays spilled through the curtains as I unearthed my grandmother's ancient VCR and dusted it off. Rationally, I knew I shouldn't watch the tape. Every fiber of my being screamed to leave it alone, but curiosity had its claws in me. What was so important that my grandmother had hidden it? The screen crackled to life, static filling the room with an unsettling hum. At first it seemed like a blank tape, then the video began. The footage was grainy, the colors washed out. The camera was handheld, shaking slightly. A man's voice narrated in a trembling whisper. "If you're watching this, it's too late for me," he said. His face appeared briefly on screen, gaunt and pale, his eyes hollow. "This tape is cursed. You need to destroy it before it destroys you." The screen flickered, and the scene changed. It now showed a dense forest at night. A woman stood in the clearing, her back to the camera. She was humming a haunting tune. The melody burrowed into my mind like a parasite, each note digging deeper. The camera zoomed in as she turned around, slowly. Her face was grotesquely distorted, her features elongated and unnatural. Her eyes were black voids, staring straight into the lens. Then, the screen went black. A deep, guttural voice whispered, "She is watching." I ripped the tape out of the VCR, my hands trembling. The oppressive silence in the house made my skin crawl. Was this some elaborate prank? A sick joke left behind by my grandmother? Yet, something about the man's voice felt genuine. His fear was palpable. That night, the nightmares began. I dreamt of the woman from the tape. She stood at the foot of my bed, humming that same eerie tune. When I tried to move or scream, my body betrayed me, frozen in place. Her face was even more horrifying in the dim light, unnaturally elongated, her mouth stretching wide into an impossible grin. I woke up drenched in sweat, but the nightmare didn't end. Objects in the house started moving on their own. Lights flickered, and the static noise from the tape seemed to emanate from the walls. The words "she is watching" began appearing everywhere on font mirrors, scrawled in the dust on furniture, even etched into my skin in faint, burning scratches. I decided to destroy the tape. I searched for it everywhere but couldn't find it. It was as if it had vanished. The more I searched, the louder the humming grew. It echoed through the walls, coming from nowhere and everywhere all at once. Desperate, I began digging into the history of my grandmother's house. I discovered she had a brother who disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago. Local legends spoke of a forest witch who cursed those who disturbed her domain. The deeper I dug, the more I realized the tape wasn't just a recording. It was a trap. I reached out to the few remaining family members who might know more. My Aunt Linda reluctantly agreed to meet me. She was the black sheep of the family, estranged from everyone. When I showed her the tape's label, her face went pale. "Your grandmother swore never to speak of this," she said. "That tape, it's the reason your uncle vanished. The witch's curse is real, and now she has her eye on you." Linda handed me an old journal. Inside were accounts of rituals and symbols meant to ward off the curse. She warned me, destroying the tape might not be enough. "You have to sever the link." The journal had drawings of the woman. Each sketch was slightly different, as though the artist could only vaguely recall her features. Some showed her with twisted horns, others depicted her mouth as a black void. A recurring note appeared next to the sketches: "Do not look directly at her." In a panic, I fled the house and checked into a motel. But the nightmares followed. The woman's face appeared in every shadow, every reflection. I couldn't escape her. Desperate, I tried to find anyone who could help. That's when I stumbled upon an online forum discussing cursed objects. Someone posted about a similar tape. The details matched perfectly. The man in the video? He was a distant relative of mine. The curse wasn't random. It was bound to bloodlines, passed down through generations. I followed the rituals Linda had given me, setting up a protective circle and burning herbs. As I chanted the incantations, the house grew colder. Shadows danced on the walls, and her humming filled the air. She appeared, more horrifying than ever, standing just outside the circle. "You can't break the chain," she hissed. "Your blood is mine." The ritual seemed to weaken her, but it wasn't enough. Desperate, I smashed the TV, the VCR, and every reflective surface in the house. As I destroyed the last mirror, her voice echoed, "You've played your part. Now it's your turn to make the tape." The next morning, I awoke to find a new VHS tape on the table, unmarked except for the words "Playmane" scrawled in my own handwriting. I realized the horrifying truth: the curse wasn't broken. It had shifted to me. My role was clear. I was the next link in the chain. Days turned into weeks, and the woman's presence grew stronger. She no longer appeared only in reflections or shadows. She began manifesting in the corner of my vision. I'd catch glimpses of her standing in doorways or crouched under my bed. Her humming became a constant background noise, even in moments of silence. I tried to resist the compulsion to make the tape, but it was like a voice inside my head, whispering instructions. It wasn't just her voice anymore. It was mine. One night, I woke up in the attic, holding a camcorder. The red recording light was on. I didn't remember climbing the ladder or turning it on. The camera was pointed at the corner where I'd found the tape. On the screen, I saw her standing there, smiling at me. "It's your turn," she said, her voice blending with mine. I screamed and smashed the camcorder. But when I looked down, the tape was already ejected. It had the same label: "Play me." The curse had consumed me. I wasn't just the next link. I was becoming her.